Hello and welcome to the Spotlight. As I get a little bit more comfortable with doing these things and trying not to trip over words and such, um, you would think that on this occasion with Pastor Phil wouldn't be so hard. I was a little bit more comfortable with Antoine, of course, with my nephews on their spotlights. I was comfortable. And you would think that because of the pastor and my relationship, that I would flow smoothly. But it isn't that it wouldn't flow smoothly. It's that whether it's from the pulpit or our just conversations in passing, he's very transparent about who he is. And in being transparent, the congregation knows a lot about him. Um, but I think I've came up with some questions that um, gave him pause and caused him to think about the answers. You know, he's quick with an answer. Um, but I think I've come up with some questions to at least get him to thinking. And oddly enough, this is the longest spotlight that I've had because, okay, you know, Pastor likes to talk. Um, so it is the longest one. But just like in some of the other spotlights, I saw a reason or a opening for part two. And um, if you like this one and you want to see Pastor sit in that seat again, um, stand by. He'll be sitting there. I may even solicit to get some questions for him. I try to come up with interesting questions, but you might come up with some interesting questions as well. But that aside, let's get to the conversation that I had with Uncle Pastor Phil. Um, Here it is. I hope you enjoy it. Computer. Okay. This is probably the spotlight you never knew you wanted. And I have to admit that this might be one of the most difficult spotlights that I've done for a couple of reasons. Tonight we have Uncle Pastor Phil, Phil Chappelle. The spotlight is on Pastor Phil tonight. Pastor, how are you doing?
I am doing excellent, doing excellent. How are you?
Not bad, not bad. Now, I think I say this might be one of the spotlights that's difficult for a couple of reasons, and that we talk every day and we talk about almost everything. Um, but the other reason I say it is that if anyone knows you and anyone has attended one of our services, whether it has been in person or virtual, um, they know you. You're very transparent, as is our whole ministerial staff. So I was trying to come up with some questions that I thought might need a little bit of deeper explanation, and or I don't want to say they're controversial. I can't say that they're controversial, but they lean on. So I have a couple questions here. And I debated on whether to do them chronologically, but I think I moved them around um, to an order that we can go. So are you ready?
Sure.
All right. So I was there years ago when the seed of what VLF is today is the gathering, when it was only a few people on Saturdays.
Oh, nine actually.
Yeah, yeah. But now it's not nine.
No, it's not nine.
Not nine when we moved into the building, and it has grown.
Yeah, the seed has grown and sprouted and moved into some directions. And
Okay. So at the gathering, you were floor level with us, and we were sitting at the same level. Um, you had a pulpit at Riverside. You were level at Joppa, but now we have a pulpit. That's kind of a crazy way to go into it, but let's just say that from the few people that you had at the gathering, from that 9 people to where we are today, having just earlier this year celebrated our 5th anniversary, how do you feel looking at your congregation now?
Still in awe at what God has done. I would tell anybody that this is nothing of Pastor Phil. I can't claim any of this doing. I'm just this guy who drew the short straw to be the pastor. And when God gave us the vision to plant Victorious Living Faith Ministries, it was one of those things that, when God sets you on a course to do something, it doesn't matter whether or not you have experience or not. All you have to have is faith, because Reverend Jackie and I, we had read books on planting a ministry, but actually doing it. But we still, to this day, we thank Pastor William A. Gray III, because with the Saturday gathering, he gave us experience of planting a ministry with a safety net. And so when God put us on that path to move us out to plant the ministry, we had some inkling of what we were doing, but it was still a whole lot of stuff of putting some things together. So when hold up, let me just pop it. So when I look at now, compared to, per se, we say the Saturday gathering, and I know you was talking about at the Saturday gathering, we were floor level. Then at Riverside, there was a pulpit, and then at in Joppa, the upper room, there was no pulpit, and now we are where we're at now. Like I said, still just in awe of what God has done and how He's put all of these things together, and what He's carried us through. I'm sorry, I'm changing cameras. As what He's carried us through, because planting a ministry is not for the faint heart. And even you have this calling, this feel of what God has called you to do. There's still some tough times that you go through. There's still some rough times that you go through. There are still some times of doubt. Matter of fact, as we were cleaning the basement today, and I actually preached a sermon on this. I don't know, I forgot when. Maybe I'll revive that sermon. But as we were doing some cleaning in the basement today, I actually found a letter that I had written to the board of the church that I was quitting, because it had felt like it got rough. I never sent that letter, because I typed it up, I read it, and God said, you don't get out that easy.
Okay. All right. So, and I've gotten these ideas even early on in our questions, and we have several other questions. You touched on the basis of where I can do a second dialogue. We're going to say dialogue instead of crossing over a conversation with Fee, and then listening to Antoine saying how and I agree with him that when you say interview, some people get kind of stiff. So we're going to say a dialogue. So I can see another one's coming through. But let me go on to my next question. You were an armor bearer before, like you say, Pastor Gray provided a platform for you with a safety net. You don't have an armor bearer, but you have right hands, both in your ministerial staff and probably with me as well. But how does it feel? Because I asked you, how does it feel to look at what we have at VLF now? But you came from a armor bearer, and we know that there have been points in the Bible where they've come from fishermen and farmers and such. How does it feel moving from an armor bearer to being a pastor?
Again, I can still say it was all of that in those early years was leading up to the point of birthing Victorious Living Faith Ministries, because as of being Pastor Gray's armor bearer, I got to see the other side of pastoring. You know, we see the pastor in the pulpit wearing the robe, and everybody wants to cook something for the pastor, and everybody, hey, pastor this, the pastor that. But I got to see that other side, that not so pretty side of pastoring. See, and Pastor Gray used to tell me, and now I completely understand, if preaching on Sunday morning was all there was to pastoring, it's an easy job. And that is most certainly true. But see, being able to see that other side, I got to see that side when someone calls you in a situation at 2 o'clock in the morning, where you are going through stuff, but you still have to get up and preach to the people of how good God is. I got to see probably one of the most humbling things is when Pastor Gray's son was transitioning, and yet he could get up and tell and preach to the congregation of how good God is. When Reverend Candace was transitioning, and yet he could get up and preach to the people of how good God is. And so there's that other side of pastoring beyond what we'll say is that glamorous side. There's that side where, you know, you look at it and be like, I don't know if I can do this part. And so, you know, I can see God leading me in to be Pastor Gray, because Pastor Gray was, man, he was an excellent pastor. He was an excellent pastor, an excellent teacher. You know, we still have conversations now, because, you know, there's still times where I want to, you know, glean from him. And so being able to see that then, and being able to see what I say is a real pastor, because a real pastor pastors the people. And when I say pastor, a real pastor is there, you know, getting up at 2 o'clock in the morning, going to the hospital, you know, getting up to see about his people, doing the things that the people need for him to do. And so being able to see that, I got to see what real pastoring is.
Okay. And again, I'm still thinking of there's more that'll go with the second conversation that we're going to get into, which we'll see. So it's a few months down the line. All right. So let's bring it up to present. We've talked about the beginnings of VLF at the Saturday gathering. We talked about your former position as being a armor bearer, and now that you are a pastor. So let's bring it up a little bit. So VLF birthed. There's a question that a lot of people don't know, that's personal to me and you, and I'm trying to figure out, should I ask that question? I'm going to step out on a limb here, and I'm going to ask that question. When you stepped out on faith and Victorious Living Faith Ministries was birthed, was born. And I know me and you have talked about it, we know, but some people have asked the question. They know how close we are. And when you, even though I left St. Stephen's that day to come down to your service, there was a conversation had, and I guess some people probably want to know, but there was a conversation had because I had to make a decision whether to stay at St. Stephen's or to kind of go where and I say Panetta's and our heart was with VLF. Many people don't know that conversation you had with me, knowing how tight we are and knowing that it took me a while to come to VLF. Do you want to share that?
Well, see, here's the thing. And I often tell this story too, that on our first Sunday, our opening service, our very first was on June 18th, 2018. And I often tell the story, and matter of fact, I did it in one of the sermons one time, that on that first Sunday, Jackie and I were driving to church, and I realized as we were about halfway there, I'm thinking, in my head of all the stuff is stuff in place, because before that first service, we had spent time painting and cleaning and doing all these things. And now I'm thinking about everything in place. And then about halfway there, I realized, okay, I was making my mental checklist, get check. And then I was like, wait a minute, God, everything is in place, but we're getting ready to have this service. And we have no members. And so here's the thing. When this was planned to do this, see that and when we left St. Stephen's, and you can remember, we just kind of eased out. It was no big hurrah or this is what we're going to do. We just kind of eased out, because see, there's this thing that God is not going to send you to plant a ministry and in so doing that disrupt a ministry. And so it was one of those things of, I just felt it was best to be silent, because a lot of times you can start a controversy, and that was not the point. The point was to plant this ministry that God had led us on. And so, yeah, you and I had that conversation. And if you remember, I was telling you not to come now, because, multimedia was our baby. And as when you became president, I'm still feeding into you because it was growing. And the thing is, I didn't want you to leave, even though I needed you there. I didn't want you to leave because somebody had to keep it going. Somebody had to build it up. And so you don't start something to say, well, I'm going to do this and tear it down. And so that's why I encourage you stay. Because see, here's the thing. If God sets you on a path, he's already got everything planned out. He's already got everything worked out. All what you have to do is walk the path that he sets and see what he's going to do.
Good answer. And I have to say that yeah, we had that conversation for us keeping the multimedia at St. Stephen's going, but now that I have transitioned over to VLF, this multimedia is doing, this show alone is the growth in a multimedia, and we are definitely growing. And there's more to come. There's more to come. All right, so we got VLF going, and we have a catchphrase. More traditional.
You have a couple.
We do have a couple of them. The one that we have posted, or that we have posted, because yeah, we've gone to the VLF Nation. I think you and I kept playing around with it, and it kept sounding better and better and better and better. Then other people started to embrace it, and then we had the second YouTube channel, and we knocked around names, and all of a sudden VLF Nation is there. Then from the pulpit, you called us a gospel gang. Now again, it's been embraced by the congregation. We are a gospel gang, and it's coming from everywhere. And I know we got a couple of nicknames that we didn't give ourselves, but it is what it is. But
there's the one, I don't know, you talking about the one, the not your traditional church, or you talking about the one where we treat you right.
Yeah, that's we're going to come back around to that too, because that plays into another question. But let's go to not your traditional church. Where did it come from, and why?
Well, I'm gonna tell you like this. Okay, so when we talk about the AME church, I was, quote unquote, as they want to say, I was born into it. I was an AME for 48 years, and I'm 55 now. I was an AME for 48 years, and African American Methodism still holds a place in my heart. But what I say as of the not your traditional church, I mean, that kind of was something that we didn't, that was part of the church name from the beginning, but we really kind of like really brought it out more so after COVID, because COVID changed the world, and it changed the church also. And so what I found, and I know there's going to be a show coming on later, but what I found that, people in that post-pandemic, they were seeking Christ, but they were seeking where they could come and worship and not jump through any loopholes. It came more of this thing of worship, and don't get me wrong, I love tradition, but it's the thing of tradition and explaining to people why we do certain things. And so what I've learned about, it started with the millennial generation. The millennial generation was information driven. They didn't want to know, okay, it was good that Jesus walked on the water, but they wanted to know why and what was the outcome and what happened after that. And so that I've I learned that the not your traditional church is not sticking to any stringent guidelines. That as you notice that our service flows, really and truly sometimes our service get interactive a lot. And that's just because the people feel free and so it's not traditional in the sense of what you would if you would say church service, what you would think of. And matter of fact, really and truly, I want to get out of the thing of church service and be and just worship, because even church service, as I think about it, service sounds like work, and we come into that building to worship God. And so, that's the thing of the not your traditional church. The thinking is, a kind of little bit different.
Good. Good. So, and I had my questions here, and I'm going to go over all of them. But you said that you've been under the AME for 28 years. I mean, 48 years. 48 years. Me, not so much, because I started as a young person. I started Baptist, and then I was apostolic until the pastor that I was under was moved to Virginia. So I bounced around a lot. So enough about me. Let me go to back to what you said. After 48 years in AME, your father in the ministry lets the seeds of the Saturday gathering take root. But when VLF comes, you take a non-denominational stance. Was that organic? Was that planned? Was it even thought about? So we are where we are. You're laughing. We are where we are. And in my opinion, we're thriving. We're doing our thing. But we are non-denominational. Any clarity to why we didn't move toward AME?
Well, here's the thing. Did I ever plan for VLF to be AME? It had crossed my mind a couple of times. And even the olive branch was thrown out there to bring it in. But here was, I guess, was my thing, that's not the way God led me to. And so this whole thing was, I'm telling you, was following God. Because I've said it before. Matter of fact, I've said it from the pulpit. I never planned on being anybody's pastor. After seeing pastoring and seeing the full scope of pastoring, okay, I never planned on being anybody's pastor. That I was like, man, look, that's a hard thing. Okay, that part where you see the pastor in the pulpit and everybody's pastor this, pastor that. Oh, that's the glamorous side. And then there's this other gutter side. And seeing all that, I never planned on being anybody's pastor. But then when God said, this is what you're going to do, you got kind of two choices. You can obey, or you can get them God spankings and do it anyway. But see, what God wants to be done is going to be done. And so I'd already had enough God spankings. If I had answered my call to ministry, when God called me into ministry, I'd have been preaching when I was 17. And as God called me to come into ministry, I went in the opposite direction. And so then there was some God spankings involved to get me back on the path that he so set for me. And so when this came about, the first thing in my head is, one, I don't want to do it. But two, I don't want them God spankings.
Okay.
And so I just led to where he followed. And if he led it towards going to AME Baptist, that's where I would follow where God leads. But but this is where God has led. What's down the road? Don't know. But just traveling the path that God has led, and this is where we are now. And I say that when God leads you on a path, because I want you to really think about this, and I don't know if I'm going to mess your questioning up, but it is what it is.
We'll adjust. We always do.
That we look at VLF was planted first service was in July of 2018. All right. So let me give you some of the stuff that happened down the road to where we are now. VLF first service was in June 18th, 2018. All right. Like I say, we didn't believe. I said, no. Going there, didn't have any members, and so, but when the doors opened up, the people just came in. And so, okay, so now we're having services, and we're a new ministry. No one knows about it. So we had a big turnout the first service, and then the second service we may have had 12 people, and it varied. Some Sundays there was 12, some Sundays there was 20, some it varied, and people felt God's urging to be a part of this ministry, and it was good. And so in October of 2018, we were renting space from a church. In October of 2018, the pastor of the church that we were renting space from come to me and said, hey, we sold the building and you have to be out by November. So, here we go. And so now there was this thing of looking for another space, and we were looking, and found a space. It just so happened when we were going to look at the space that was going to be the next home of VLF, Pastor Gray and Reverend Candace had called, and they were coming by the house, and I told them what we was getting ready to do. So they went over there with us, and we seen a space. It was all right. It was all right still. It was not what you would think of setting up a church. And it was all right. But I said, there's just not enough room. And so it was a space, and it had this one room, which was nice size, but still not enough size. Then it had this wall, and then it had a room behind that wall that, if you could have put both of those rooms together, you would have a good sanctuary. And Pastor Gray and I was sitting there looking at that wall, and Pastor Gray said, man, if you could tear down this wall, you'd have a good sanctuary. And the lady from the property management was there, and she heard it, and she said, we can tear that wall down for you. So we went on a Monday to see the place. She said that we went on and put security deposit down, signed papers. By Wednesday, they had called and said the work to the wall was done. Made a call out. Gathered some men of the church. Got a U-Haul truck. On Thursday, Friday, we moved our items from the building we were in to the new building, got stuff situated, set up, was up there until in the evening on Saturday, and had a service on that Sunday. And so it's one of those, when God starts putting some things in a path. But now here's the crazy thing, because you heard about this when COVID hit. A lot of business started up right before COVID, and things started up right before COVID, and then COVID hit and stuff started shutting down. So now we're still this young ministry. It's still this young ministry, and we're up and running. We're doing well. Boom, COVID hits. And so now it's the thing of, okay, Lord, we're just getting going good. And now what's going to happen? But see, here's the crazy thing. Here's when God puts you on a path that even though stuff comes along, matter of fact, we talked about it when we was in Bible study last night, that when Peter got out of the boat, he took his eyes off Jesus and then started concentrating on what he was in, what was going on around him. And so it was almost like that, but it was this thing of keeping your eye on Jesus, keeping focused on Jesus. And we had virtual church, and we made it do what it do. It went, and the crazy thing is, all of our virtual stuff, all of our broadcasting service was already set up before COVID hit. So there was no real scramble. It was just setting the house up to broadcast from the house. And, being a tech, I was able to integrate ministerial staff. We're all locked down at home, but we was able to integrate ministerial staff, and probably, I'm going to say that when God blessed me to meet Jacqueline Ernice, she was Scott then. When he blessed me to meet her, he was still setting this up, because as much as I know that this is the path that God said, I couldn't have did it without her.
Right.
She was the driving force, even in them times when I wanted to quit. She was that driving force that we kept moving forward. And so here's the crazy thing. During COVID, the ministry actually grew. See, that was the crazy thing. The ministry actually grew. People were joining the church virtually, to the point that, and these were not people, all over the country. These were people right here local. And it was to the point that I knew that when this COVID thing goes away, because stuff is only for a season, and COVID was not going to be forever. This is not what our lot was going to be forever. This time was going to go away, but in our heads, we saw that we could not go back to the space that we were at, because how the ministry had grown during COVID. And so that put the move to, oh, here's the other crazy thing. So we moved in 2018. All right, we had a 5-year lease. Okay. So 5-year lease, our lease is up in 2023, right? And so now you see this growth. Now you have this problem. What are we going to do? We have a lease. We have a lease, but we can't get all of the folks in. So the last ditch effort, okay, we'll just have, 2 services. But see, here's what, when God is in the mix, because why did the leasing office call me out of the blue and say, hey, if you need to get out of your lease, you can. And so then there's that thing, okay, God, what you going on? What you got going on? And that just led to this, that led to one thing and led to another thing. And the result of that is where you see VLF at now.
Okay. Well, I know for one that the congregation grew by 2 over at the Spencer household. And I think I came in doing a favor, maybe, of standing in. Before you left the upper room, I know I stood in once or twice at the physical location. And then, as you said, we made adjustments so that we had a very well run, like it was an old machine. I mean, it was just like a movie in the background or a show in the background, but we did our thing. So we did that. So I was there and seeing the growth. I was there, as you and Jackie always say, the church is the people. But the building that we're in now, I was there when that happened. And so much that, again, there's so much that people know, but they may not know that fine detail to it. And we'll get into that later. So I was going to circle back around to something about denominations, but I don't want to get by without asking a question that you and I have said. But a few weeks ago, you made a post about church not being a competition sport. I know you don't just post for no reason. Why did you post about church is not a competition sport? Now, I will give you an out. You can say pass. You can say pass. But I give you the opportunity to not pass and explain that statement about church not being a competition sport.
All right. So here we go. So in my past life, I was in the car business. Okay, I started out as salesperson, went to sales manager, finance manager. So I was in the car business. And what you learn about the car business is a competitive business. Everybody's got a sale that we're going to sell it less than what they're going to sell it over there. It's a sale thing. And so what happened, the car business, there's some kind of stuff that they did to themselves when everybody's saying we're going to outsell everybody else. And so now that's why the customer will run around from dealership to dealership and play prices against salespeople, because everybody said that we will sell it for less. We're going to have your lowest price. And so there's that thing. And so here we go. In kingdom building, we should all be working together to build God's kingdom. But there are some times that even in the church, we get caught up in competition. We get caught up in, I'm trying to get more members than you. Okay, it should be that we're trying to build kingdom, not trying to get more members, because when you really look at it, these are members of the ministry and they're God's people. It ain't got nothing to do with you. Again, you're just the guy who drew the short straw to be the pastor, but it had nothing to do with you. They are members of the ministry and they are God's people. And so, really and truly, when you say these are my members, no, they're not your members. They are members of the ministry and God's people. You are just the pastor. You are the one who shepherds the people. And so, that post was kind of that. You see this going on, and what it does, it causes a division, because now you have a division because of, if this is your pastor, this is your shepherd, you're looking towards your shepherd for spiritual guidance. And you hang on your shepherd's word, but when your shepherd says, okay, that church down the street, they ain't nothing. But wait a minute, aren't we all in one body? Aren't we all one in Christ's body? So that's like your hand, like your right hand saying, don't use left hand garbage. But we all are one body. And so when we look at this, this post-COVID church, and we all know that attendance has really changed since COVID. We should all be working together to build God's kingdom, not tearing each other down. So there it is.
So I'm glad that we touched on it. And I know that you live this for a couple of reasons. Again, since we're non-denominational, but you still maintain good relationships with your brothers and sisters in the ministry that came up under Pastor Gray. If anyone would look at our 7 last words, they will see that we have a goulash of denominations and ministries. We share a very good relationship with Reverend Motlin. We, as in we, me and you, have through our own side business, have forged relationships, and we have a very good relationship with New Hope Baptist in the city, which is Pastor Anthony Bell. We share that, and even in our small events that we've tried to do in the community, we've met the pastor from the church caddy corner across from us, New Life Sanctuary, and you could feel some kindred there. So one question I had is about developing relationships among other denominations, but you've basically answered that question. You live that question. Well, I know personally, and they'll see a gathering of different denominations on a future spotlight that we came up with last night in a conversation.
Here's the thing. This is our sword, our Bible, our textbook, whatever you want to call it. But here's the thing. You can go from Genesis to Revelation. All right. And Revelation talks about what John saw and talks about heaven. But you don't hear anything about, okay, Methodists are going to be on this side of heaven. Baptists are going to be on this side of heaven. Apostolic are going to be on this side of heaven. That's not going to exist. Again, I have nothing against denominations. I have nothing against it. Like I said, AME still holds a special place in my heart. But we're going to have to start learning to work together. That's how we build God's kingdom. And as we say with the Republicans and the Democrats, we're going to have to start doing some reaching across the aisles. Because if you look at this world right now, it's not getting better.
Not at all.
And we are stronger together.
And that is,
So we're going to have to start doing some unifying as the body of Christ to keep God's kingdom building.
right. Even in our Holy Smoke event, the though that was our first one, and our next one is going to be better, and it's going to be what we wanted it to be. We wanted to have a number of churches come on the parking lot adjacent to the church and basically come fellowship among each other and enjoy food, enjoy camaraderie, but we weren't doing it just for VLF. We wanted to bring the churches in the area together so that we could get to know each other. So, like I said, I see you live it. So I'm going to switch gears here. And in the sake of transparency, we are recording this on Thursday, December the 14th. But if I hold to my Friday releases of the spotlights, this will probably be released the last Friday of this month. But we touched on Jackie, Reverend Jackie, Lady J, preached this past Sunday, and she led Bible study last night, which was December the 13th, and she touched on something, and she touched on as if she almost knew what my question was. So we're going to get, this one is geared directly towards you.
All right.
And well, let's get through it first. And it's you walking the walk, talking the talk, and it's about faith. So during COVID a few years ago, you had an accident. What some would say could have been catastrophic. I don't know. I think I was one of the first to get the call as of what happened and where you guys were. And you're not only my pastor, you're my brother, you're my business partner. We're so many things. We're so many things. But when I got that call that concerned your vision, and years before that, I was with you when you had surgery on your eyes. And I can't tell you exactly what I thought. But then Jackie sent out this picture of you guys sitting in an emergency room, knowing what happened to your eyes. You had your hat on, you were a cool dude, had your sunglasses on, but there was this peace and this calm over you. And I think I, among other people, said, if this guy can have this much faith, then we got faith too. You touched on base last night during Bible study about that guy was 13 to 15 years ago. But the amount of faith that you have now, and like I said, we saw I don't know if I could have, I don't know if I could have been that person. I have a fear of losing my vision and sight, but you've just had your fourth eye surgery. And up to the day of the surgery, it was, you were Phil. You didn't see, I don't know what your quiet moments are. And your quiet moments are your quiet moments, but you never changed gears. So I guess through this whole roundabout thing, tell us about your faith.
Well, you know, but I always say it's a big thing of looking back to what God has brought you through.
Mhm.
And so I can say that this is I read this is a story that still sticks in my head, and it's been so many years ago. I was a sophomore at North Carolina Central University, Eagle Pride.
Okay.
And, we were me and my me and one of my friends. We worked at a Little Caesars Pizza. And that's back when it was pizza because you bought one pizza and you got a pizza free. So when you walked out of there, you walked out with two pizzas. And when Little Caesars came back and it was pizza, but you only got one pizza, I was kind of distraught. But anyway. So we were leaving work one night. We actually closed up that night. And so the Little Caesars that we worked in was in this little shopping center. So we're closing up. It's probably about 1 in the morning when we're closing up and we're leaving, and we see two guys walking through the parking lot. Okay, but there was something that stood out about these guys, but it was just like, come on, let's just get in the car and go on, get on back to campus. And so as we're leaving the parking lot, I hear pop pop and I hear glass, and they're shooting at the car. My back windshield's gone. And so, I'm a college sophomore, really didn't know that much about Durham. All I knew was to get back to campus. So I got back to campus and I went to campus security. And campus security, they called the Durham police, and the Durham police came out. And I still remember this day. His name is Officer Terry Johnson. He came to me. He comes in because we're in the security office on campus, and he comes in and he says, "Who was the driver of the car?" And I said, "Me." He said, and he put his hands on me, and he says, he tells me he's a deacon at a church, and he says, "God has something for your life." And look, okay, so I'm a teenage kid who just got shot at, and I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And he says, "Come here." So he takes me back out to the car and he says, "Look at that." And I'm looking, I'm still shook. I've been shot at. And he says, "Look at that." And I'm like, "What?" And he points to the headrest of the car. I said, "Yeah, there's a bullet hole." He said, "You don't understand." Then he shows me the front of the headrest, and there's a little bulge. The bullet is actually in the headrest and stopped right before it came out. He says, "That's nothing but the Lord who had his hand over you. God has something planned for you." And so that sticks with me to this day. And so in that, I kind of, it's in my head, whatever God brings us to, he's going to bring us through. And so even when I had my first eye surgery, that's because, I had developed a condition called keratinoconus. And so they had to do a cornea transplant, did cornea transplant. Everything is going good, la, 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 la. And a freak accident, I'm unbuckling a bungee cord. And how the bungee cords have the little hooks on them. The bungee cord broke loose and that hook caught me in the eye. And I knew something was really, really wrong, because when I held the eye, this fluid came out, and I'm trying to put it, and then there was this black stuff that came out, and I'm trying to put all this together. It's in pain, but I knew that there was something really bad. And once I get to the hospital, I found out that it had not only it had torn the cornea out. That black thing that I saw that came out was my iris. My lens had came out, and that fluid, that clear fluid that I had a handful of, was the fluid that the lens in my eye floated in. So now, I still remember when I got to John Hopkins and they got me with a cornea trauma specialist. Now, cornea, okay, works on the cornea, and trauma deals with accidents. And when he took the towel off my eye, he said, "Whoa!" I'm like, "Oh, is it that bad that this is his job and he's jumping back?" But still, emergency surgery that night. Then had to come back and get another cornea transplant, and it's just whatever God brings you to, he's going to bring you through. So you really can't concentrate too much on the what I'm in, but keep looking for the out. Keep looking for that I know God is going to carry me beyond this. The Bible says that God promises he will never leave you nor forsake you. So if I'm in a situation, guess what? God is in the situation with me, because he said he would never leave me nor forsake me. But I know that God is not going to stay in this situation. He's also promised that he would never leave me nor forsake me. So when he leaves this situation, he's going to carry me with him, because he promised never to leave me nor forsake me. And so it's just that thing of you can kirk out and go crazy. And keep in mind, there's nothing wrong with that, because we are all human. Okay, but and like I said, this has been through the process of going through ups and downs and going into hills and valleys, that the thing of a peace which surpasses all understanding. Am I fully there yet? No. But I'm at a place now that I wasn't 15 years ago. So it's a process, and day by day is part of that process.
And we're glad for that you are on the mend. We've been riding and dying with your eyes for for quite a few years now.
Oh yeah.
And we still together, and we still doing that, and you guys know you can count on me, but I know I can count on you guys too. So we're working toward the ending here. So this is what I'm gonna do, and I don't even know why I thought about this. I'm gonna be a psychiatrist for the next couple of minutes.
Oh.
So I'm gonna say a couple of words, and I want you to say what immediately that comes to your mind. I want to.
Oh boy.
And if people know, Jackie knows.
Everybody get this.
And everybody, some people will say it because they see I will fuss with you sometimes about some things. So I don't want explanations. I want the first thing that comes to your mind with these words that I'm going to say to you. 1 or 2 sentence explanations, 1 word explanations. But I will give you a little bit of a lead in, because I'm going to using the season that we're in, I'm going to use Advent words. I want you to say the first thing that comes to your mind, not a long drawn out, just the first thing that comes to your mind. Joy.
Jesus, Jackie.
Okay. Hope,
Tomorrow.
peace,
Oh man, peace. Where I am.
okay. Love,
Jackie. Jesus.
okay.
Holy Spirit.
All right. And we light the Christ candle, so Christ.
Prince of Peace.
All right. So oddly enough, um, we've gone through all my questions
Going through all the questions.
for this segment.
For this segment.
Because I do want to circle back around to you because you said some things that opened up another set of questions. I will tell our viewing audience is that we will circle back around to you, but we have a spotlight in the working where they will see you on the spotlight again. I don't want to give too much away, but we're working on it in the background trying to put this spotlight together. So, under most circumstances of ending a spotlight, I do ask the guests, and I don't know if we can really call you a guest, but tell us something. Tell us something personal, not about Pastor Phil. Antoine during his spotlight, he was talking about Jay-Z and I forget his real name now. What's Jay-Z's real name?
Sean
Carter. Yeah, Sean Carter. Okay. So tell us something about Philip Miller. Don't tell us anything about Pastor Phil. Tell us something about Philip Miller.
All right, well, let me see here. Philip Miller, man. Philip Miller is happy guy, father of 6, grandfather of 8, married to the most beautifulest woman in the world. Life is good. But when you talk about Jay-Z, as you were trying to, there's a difference between the Jay-Z and the Sean Carter. We have these like I said, these alternate identities. Well, Pastor Phil and Phil are the same person. You won't see Pastor Phil in the pulpit, and then you see Phil, drunk at the bar. And there's nothing good. Don't get me wrong. There's nothing about going to the bar. Bible don't say anything about drinking. The Bible talks about getting drunk. All right. So anyway, that's just a little sidebar there. But anyway, I remember something Jay-Z said, and it's kind of one of the things that I've kind of looked at too. There was one time there was an interview. Jay-Z said when he was starting out, he went to his uncle, and his uncle had attempted to go into the music business also, put something out that didn't have any real big success. And so he went to his uncle and he said, his goal is to sell 1 million records. And his uncle told him, don't set your bar that high. You're never going to do it. And what Jay-Z said is that sometimes people will put their fears on you. And so I've learned that when someone says you can't do something, that's their fear. When someone says you're not going to make it, that's their fear. When someone said, when you step out the box and someone said that's not how you're supposed to do it, that's their rationale. Because even of the thing of VLF, I've heard all of that. Now, when you look at the difference in Phil and Pastor Phil, and you know, like I said, they are all the same person, but you know, um, me personally, I like being real with people, um, because when you're real, you never have to backtrack yourself. Um, when you start being unreal, you got to keep track of everything that you do, because when you run across that person again, you got to make sure that you're that same person. But if I'm me all the time, this is who I am. You either love me or leave me alone. And this is who I am. And so that's what I I think is one of the things that people gravitate to, because you know you always know where you are with me. And so personally, I'm just loving life. Even though there's hills and valleys, there's trials, there's things that you go through, I'm still loving life every day. Above dirt is a good day. And every day is a process of growing in faith. And personally, I like my downtime. Sometimes I do. I often tell um this personally. I don't like being around a lot of people, but God has made me love being around the people and loving the people. Some of the best advice I got was when I got by Reverend Dana White, when I got ordained, and she said, love the people. Sometimes it's gonna be hard. Love the people. Sometimes they gonna get on your nerves. Love the people. Sometimes they gonna be after you, but love the people. And so all of these things combine to who I am now.
Good, good. Well, I'm going to let you go. This will probably be our longest spotlight so
Oh,
far.
I get the long one.
Well, you like to explain stuff, but that's what we do. That's how our conversations go. Uh, a lot of people, I'm sure people know that we talk during the week, and sometimes it's technical because we have business, technical business together and stuff like that. But I do get the benefit, and I'll tell people now, you know, and I don't hope they don't come down on me. I get the benefit of an extra Bible study sometimes when we talk. So some of the answers that you asked on Bible study it could run across some of the conversation that we're having. Sometimes I try to be quiet about it, but I do get the benefit of your knowledge and experience with the Bible during our talk. So it's just who we are. We can sit and talk for hours about almost anything and segue into three or four things before we get to the end of a phone call. So
Yeah.
this spotlight people just seeing some of how our week goes. So it is what it is. So I thank you again, Pastor Phil. I know your schedule's busy because I know your schedule usually. But I'm glad that you took the time to do this and to share some things with us about roots and seeds and some of the roots and seeds that were about you. So I appreciate you. And I know we're going to hit the stop to the record and we're going to talk just for a few more minutes because I need to work on this one. But I said the date that we're recording this for a reason because I am going to shoot for this spotlight being on the 29th as we go into the next year. I wanted to spotlight our pastor, which will be, if I'm not mistaken, it will be Spotlight 10. And I think 10 is a good number. And it's the last Friday of the year.
And it is progressive.
Yeah, it's flying. So say bye to everybody. And
And God bless.
good night and God bless. There you go, Pastor Phil.
So there you have it. Our first conversation with Pastor Phil. Um, and as I said during the conversation, um, other questions came to mind, but we definitely didn't have time to get them in. But there will be at least one more conversational spotlight with Pastor Phil singularly. As I spoke in there, we're working on something um, that we hope you're going to find interesting. I'm hoping to do that at the somewhere in the month of January. We did miss. I did have to, because of scheduling, push back two recordings of spotlights that I had hoped to be done by now, and one would have premiered um, Friday the 22nd, but because of scheduling of the two that were on the schedule, those fell back. So well, you'll know by now that there was not a spotlight on the 22nd. So again, we thank Pastor Phil for appearing on the spotlight. We're still trying to get content out there that it's either entertainment or informational, but we're trying to get content out there that you, the VLF Nation and VLF family and friends, will find entertainment, informative, and useful. So this is Anthony Spencer for VLF Nation Spotlight. Thank you, be blessed, and see you on Sunday.